Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is called to order. Welcome everybody to the new year. This is the first official meeting of the Missoula County Public Schools Board of Trustees for the year 2013. And we are happy to have you all here. All trustees are present and accounted for, which is great after a fall season of lots of travel. It's nice to have everyone back. I'd like to personally thank Trustee Joe Knapp for chairing the December meeting while I was gone. I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Dr. Knapp. And now I'd like you to stand for the pledge. And tonight we have members of the Missoula Education Foundation Student Board of Trustees here to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, students. We'll move to the review of the agenda for this evening. Trustees, I'm going to ask you for your permission to remove item 17B from the agenda. I am not ready to handle that, and I don't have all the information from all the trustees to move ahead with that. We are required to complete the superintendent's evaluation and have our public report written by January 31st of each new year. And so that will mean that I'm going to have to ask everybody to come to a special meeting. I'm sorry to do that, but we're just not ready to go tonight. Everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you very much. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, do you approve it as it stands then with that one change? I'm seeing all nods. Thank you very much. And we will move to approval of minutes. The first is from the status report meeting of October 25th, 2012. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Bixler. Any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving them as they stand in our packet. Those are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. And for the special meeting of December 3rd, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Trustee Bixler, seconded by Trustee Knapp. Any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those? And those are approved unanimously as well. Thank you. And for the regular meeting of December 11th, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Trustee Dupree, seconded by Trustee Lamb. Any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those minutes? And those are approved unanimously as well. And we will move on to our community connection. And I'm going to ask Dr. Davis Schmidt if she would do the introductions for us, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Rabine. I am pleased to introduce tonight's community connection, Denise Dowling. Denise joined the University of Montana's broadcast faculty in 2000 after 20 award-winning years working in television and radio newsrooms. In 2004, she was named the country's most promising journalism professor, and in 2010 she won the Broadcast Education Association's Best of Festival Award for her radio news work. Denise teaches broadcast writing, reporting, producing, and anchoring, and also co-teaches the student documentary class. Those programs have earned regional, national, and international awards for radio television department seniors. Dowling also spearheads the Footbridge Forum, which is a series of student-produced radio programs focusing on community problem solving. Currently, she serves as the Dean of UM School of Journalism, and she is here tonight to share her thoughts on what a graduate of Missoula County Public Schools should know and be able to do in a 21st century college and career environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I'm a Montana native, a graduate of Helena High School and the University of Montana. My husband and I have 2 kids in Missoula County Public Schools. Our daughter Erin is a sophomore at Sentinel, and our son Kellen is a 7th grader at Meadow Hill. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm really excited to talk to you about what's happening in journalism and what's happening in your schools that can help students prepare for this career. As you all know, there have been so many changes in journalism. In the past decade, we have seen more changes in the profession, probably since the printing press was invented. As you know, newspapers, when I came up in journalism, every town had a newspaper, sometimes two. Every town had radio stations that were doing journalism. There were the big three television news networks and PBS, and that was it. It's a completely different landscape now, and the rule is that it's changing and constantly changing, and we have to prepare our students to be able to deal with that change while still having those fundamental skills that journalists need. I wanted to share with you just some statistics that I thought you might find interesting about journalism as an industry. 68% of online advertising revenue for news sites goes to the industry giants, places like Google, Yahoo. Newspaper advertising has dropped off, but there is 10 times more advertising revenue lost in newspapers than has been made up online. So for the industry, the financial situation is dire. They need to figure out, and people far smarter than me need to figure out, how journalism is going to pay for itself. The fact of the matter is there are lots of journalism jobs out there. They're just not in the traditional media. They aren't newspaper jobs necessarily anymore. They're online jobs. They're social media jobs. And that's what our students are looking at in this, this competitive field. What we expect of our graduates once they're done with the University of Montana School of Journalism is that they are strong reporters and writers, that they are thinkers, that they know how to ask questions, that they are interested in holding people accountable and finding out what's happening in their communities so that our citizens can be better prepared to play a role in their own governance, in their democracy. That's where we want our students to be. We teach them the foundations of writing, of reporting, of asking those questions, interviewing, and how to convey that information out to an audience. Our curriculum changed fairly dramatically 2 years ago in response to the changes in the industry. We now require our students in our pre-professional program to take a bunch of different media platform delivery courses. So they now all in the pre-professional program have to take a photojournalism class, have to take a video journalism class, have to take an audio journalism class, as well as their reporting, their history, and we also require outside of journalism, political science, business, math. So we really require a well-rounded education of our students, and I'll talk in a little bit about what we see coming in from Missoula County Public Schools and where you can help us prepare our students better. Once our students get into the professional program, they're required to take a media law course, an ethics course, and they also continue with their writing, reporting, and technology skills. Students can choose either to be generalists, so they're getting a bit of experience in a lot of different areas in journalism, or they can be specialists. They can just focus on one delivery method, say photojournalism if they'd like, or they can focus on one content area, whether it be sports reporting, investigative reporting, that kind of thing. So our curriculum has become much more flexible as far as the students go, that they are really able to carve out their own path as they see for their career preparation. We also encourage minors. We really want our students to specialize in another area and have a depth of knowledge in a particular area. But our students have got to go out and to be able to learn and adapt. They need to have no fear of technology. And I do think that the Missoula County Public Schools are doing a terrific job of that by exposing them to these things early on. We have students coming in now as freshmen who know a good deal already about perhaps video, audio, writing, the fundamental skills that they need to get a journalism education. We need our graduates to be able to express themselves clearly and especially to make complex situations understandable. that's what we work on with them a lot. Of course, they've got to have the technology skills and a good idea of how the world works. We want them to understand the basics of criminal justice, the basics of how their government works, so that they can report on these things. More and more, our graduates are required to understand digital graphics. They need to know a little bit about computer coding. Journalists anymore are truly one-man band or one-woman band operations. They'll go out to cover a story. They're expected to tweet from that story. Then they get back to their newsroom. They're expected to post something online immediately and then write their story for the next day's newspaper. So our students, our graduates, go out into a true multimedia world, and they've got to be prepared for that. Our students, our graduates, are also expected to have an understanding of audience and computer analytics. They need to know who's watching, who's listening, and why. We need graduates who have interpersonal skills. They need to be able to pick up the telephone, I know, the telephone, not send a text, and ask questions of a stranger on the other end of the line. They need to know how to go to a meeting and present themselves. They need to know to look someone in the eye and shake their hand and make conversation with people. And that's a real struggle sometimes. I think more and more with young people as they get, into the electronic and the digital communication, a lot of them don't understand that you really need to go out, pound the pavement, press the flesh, meet people, talk to them. We need them to have curiosity. We need them to want to know more about the world and about people. So when we get the freshmen coming from Missoula County Public Schools and elsewhere, we expect them to have a start on all of those things. I don't know how you teach young people to be curious. It's a challenge of mine, but I think by exposure to a lot of different areas. And I really do feel like you're doing a good job in getting students that basic understanding of how the world works. One of the things that we struggle with mightily is writing skills. We see freshmen who come in who don't know that you need to start a sentence with a capital and end it with some form of punctuation. We see students who can't spell, who don't read well, who aren't thinking critically about what they read and what they hear and what they see. And I would just say that any emphasis that you can put on writing skills and writing conventions, really, grammar, punctuation, spelling, the difference between an opinion essay and a research paper, all of these things would be very helpful. We are thinking about adding a grammar class at the freshman level in journalism and giving students the option to test out of it, but we really feel like some basic grammar and writing is lacking when we see the freshmen coming in. We want them to have a desire to learn, and mostly they do. And we want them to be fearless around technology, which they mostly are. I wanted you to know, and I'm sure you all do know this, but I wanted to talk just briefly about our dual credit with Sentinel High School that we're doing. It's the first time a journalism class has been offered for dual credit in the state of Montana, and we're working with Tom Blakely and Jen Kientz and Victor Loya over there on offering the first dual credit course. It's been a terrific experience, and we're really grateful for the opportunity to meet these young people and interact with them. The students have come over to the university several times, and we send professors over to do guest lectures as well. I think it's been terrifically successful, and I hope that Sentinel will work with us to continue to expand those offerings and see what else we can do to develop their idea of this academy. We hope that working with them and working with all of you, that we can grow the next generation of journalists, young people who will share information in ways that we have never even imagined, who will be devoted to the Fourth Estate's role in helping citizens be informed and participate in their own democracy. Thank you. Do I stay and take questions? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Apostle would like to make a comment, and then we'll see if the trustees have any questions
All right,
for you.
terrific.
What
Thank
a
you.
great presentation. You summarized a number of things that I think are going to be very important for us to consider. As you know, we're working diligently to do some of the things that you're talking about, and the relationship that the University of Montana and Sentinel High School has embarked upon is just a wonderful way to improve our entire program. So thank you very much for that.
Well, we think so too, Dr. Apostle, and thank you for your role in helping make this happen. I
You
really
bet.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did a very nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions or comments? Trustee Bixler.
Just a quick comment that obviously you are doing something quite right in my family. My son just got accepted into the professional program as a sophomore, and my daughter's favorite day is Thursday. She goes to Sentinel, and when she gets to go with Jennifer Kintz over to the university, she absolutely loves it. So thank you very much for everything that the journalism is doing.
That's great. Would you tell your young people to come find me? I'd like to meet them. Thanks.
Other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, spit it out, Professor Dowling. It's great to have you with us, and thanks for all the work that you're doing to help our students. Appreciate that. All right, we will move on now. There's correspondence in our packet, and now we'd love to hear from our student trustees. Stella, to begin for us.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'll just start by talking a little bit about December at Hellgate. December was a fast-moving month for Hellgate. Our swim team has been stealing many headlines, and our basketball boys team is currently undefeated. We are really proud of both of these sports teams. Our winter concerts and our assembly went harmoniously, as well as our transitions into and out of winter break. Moving on a little bit to January, student government just brought all the donations from their December coat drive to Watson's Children's Shelter, and is currently planning their January project. Their January project is unique. We've never attempted this before, but we are going to make a big resolution wall, and we're going to put it down in the cafeteria, and we're going to allow students to write resolutions for Hellgate on it. And then we're going to take the wall, and we're going to try to fulfill the most common resolutions that were written by students. So this is just another way that we're trying to include more of the student body into our student government, because we really want to, as the previous professor was saying, we want to try to get students included in just their school democracy, so later they might be more apt to get involved in the greater democracy of the country. We have two new clubs at Hellgate. The first is NIGU, which is a club focused on raising funds for cancer patients, and this is actually the project of 2 IB diploma students. And another senior project, which happens to be my own, is KIND, which is Knights Inspiring Noble Deeds, which is focused on bringing together student voices and creating a positive student culture within Hellgate and Missoula. The journalism students at Hellgate are really happy to have to be able to use Gmail again, so we would like to thank you for your concern and response on that topic. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year and wonderful January. Thank you.
Thanks, Stella. I know that you've got other commitments, so feel free to excuse yourself when you're ready to do that. Tanner.
You'll have to excuse me, I'm coming off a bit of a cold, so my voice is a bit coarse. The past month at Sentinel has yielded a number of exciting activities and accomplishments ranging from athletics to arts. Spartan students have been up to a lot during the winter season. It is my pleasure to share with you all the various things going on in Sentinel High School. Shortly before the students went on break, Sentinel hosted their annual Winter Music Assembly. The assembly featured all of Sentinel's talented musicians and performers. Gary Gillette conducted a joyful array of holiday band ensembles and encouraged the student section to get involved. Ryan Davis led the Spartan Orchestra in a soft, melodic pieces inspiring holiday nostalgia within the student crowd. Finally, Jessica Tidwell directed the Spartan choirs in performing a classic vocal pieces featuring soloist Haley Court and the first student conductor, Nikki Manlove. Sentinel music groups also hosted their winter concert the same week to an appreciative audience of parents and community members. Needless to say, the winter performance fully prepared us to enjoy the holiday season. After break, athletics in school resumed in session. Students, somewhat reluctantly, returned to their classes ready to learn. The Garden City Boys Wrestling Meet was held just last weekend, and the Spartan Boys claimed their 4th straight Garden City title. The Spartan Boys Wrestling team will compete in the Rocky Mountain Classic this weekend. Both girls and boys basketball will face off against city opponent Big Sky Eagles tonight, which is actually happening right now as we give our reports. Sentinel Swimming traveled to Kalispell for the Kalispell Invitation this past weekend as well. The Spartan relay teams took second overall. Speech and Debate gears up for their state meet in Butte this weekend. And finally, Sentinel DECA chapter will travel to Helena in early February to compete at the State Career Development Conference. As you can see, Spartan athletics and clubs are very active this time of year. The winter season has brought Sentinel students a whole lot of opportunity in clubs and athletics. As we continue through the winter and emerge into spring, Sentinel will continue its participation in those important activities. I will have a detailed report next month outlining the next chapter in Spartan accomplishments. Thanks, and go Spartans.
Lots of great stuff. Thanks, Tanner. Now, would you introduce yourself before you speak, please?
Yeah, I was going to do that. So I'm obviously not Haley or Brielle. My name's Roman Chinakailo. I go to Big Sky High School. I'm a friend of theirs, and so they couldn't be here tonight, so they asked me to come, and they typed up this overview. I read over it, added some things in of my own, so I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown of what's going on at Big Sky. So, as the semester is coming to an end, Big Sky students are in full swing of their activities and schooling. Senior papers are finally finished, and winter sports have started conference competition. Despite the hardships and loss that Big Sky recently experienced, the students and faculty have been able to keep a brave face, and the school is again functioning at an almost normal level. Our basketball players and wrestlers have been hard at work. The boys and girls varsity and JV teams play Sentinel tonight, as Tanner reminded us. Big Sky's going to win. And both of them. And the wrestlers are competing in the meet at Sentinel this Friday and Saturday. Our speech and debate team is also competing this weekend as they head to Bozeman for a meet. Our swim team is also in the midst of their season. The drama department has been working on a new improv production which premieres this Thursday. It's a senior project of a friend of mine, so if anyone can attend, I think it's at 7 p.m. on Thursday night. The drama students also just recently auditioned for a play they will be performing in the spring. Our wood shop is now planning to hold a raffle for handmade goods. Big Sky High School's Woods 3 class will be raffling off a pair of wood core skis, a snowboard, and a sauna. Big Sky was recently awarded a $1,000 grant by the Farmers State Bank as a result of a presentation given by Haley, Brielle, and myself, as we are on the junior board of directors. Yeah, and that's for a school improvement project that we proposed. It was putting a few flat screens in the halls to run announcements during the school day if someone misses the audio over intercom morning announcements. Also, my 5th level Spanish class, taught by Jay Bostrom, has just completed a project where we looked at indigenous resistance in Latin America and contacted the groups involved directly. Instead of looking at news articles and periodicals, we decided that we would contact them directly and find out their story. And Dr. Dowling's presentation reminded me of that. And that's a main goal of our Spanish teacher. He decided to do something new this year, and it worked out pretty well. We had sort of a congress where we spent 3 hours Skyping the chauffeur of Subcomandante Marcos, who's the leader of the Zapatista resistance in Mexico. So that was really cool. Onward, the Big Sky Blue Note Cafe is Saturday, January 19th. It will feature the Big Sky Jazz Band and original songs by the music technology students, as well as a silent auction, raffle, a cabaret atmosphere, and fine desserts from local restaurants. This is one of the band's biggest and best fundraisers of the year, and proceeds go to support the band's upcoming trip to Hawaii in the spring of 2014. Current 8th graders and their parents will have an opportunity to learn about the classes, activities, and athletics offered at Big Sky High School during the open house being held tomorrow night. There's a great wave of community outreach going on at Big Sky, as several students are conducting mentor programs in collaboration with our feeder schools for their senior projects. Thank you for this time, and have a happy new year.
Thanks, Roman. What a great job. Please tell the girls you did an outstanding job. Yeah, they might be in a little contention for their jobs if they don't watch it. All right, thanks. And now we have Tucker.
Okay, so at Willard Alternative High School, students contributed to the Missoulians Martin Luther King Jr. art and essay contests. I'd also like to echo our thanks to head nurse Linda Simon and the St. Patrick's Hospital Foundation for the new AED at Willard. Also, I'd like to give a big shout out to Sherry Postman and the staff in the administration building for generous donations to support holiday cheer for many Willard students. It was really nice for you guys. Flagship coordinator Vanessa Nye has a great crew of students signed up to help with the Special Olympics on January 29th and 30th. Our winter open house is on Thursday, January 24th, starting at 5:30. It is a family event with a dinner of winter comfort food, as well as a chance for parents to meet teachers and see examples of our student work. Please stop by, too, if you can. Our third quarter ends in less than 2 weeks on January 18th. It's hard to believe that the school year is half finished. The honor roll assembly for the third quarter will be January 25th, and the student parent-teacher conferences will be held on January 31st. The Gaudy Community Arts class recently donated 2 mosaic tile murals to Home Resource on Russell because they have donated so many tiles and other supplies to Willard. Home Resource hung the pieces at the entrance to their building. They look great. The students are responsible for the designer Caden Reese and graduate Sam Alderson. This is what's happening at Willard, and everybody have a nice week.
Hey, same to you, Tucker. Thank you very much. Lots going on, isn't it exciting? All right, we'll move now to public comment regarding non-agenda items. If anyone would like to offer comment, we'd like to hear from you, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Okay, thanks. Happy New Year. Welcome back. Here we go. It's day 2 of the legislature. Exactly. In December, I shared with all of you an editorial that came out from MTSBA, SAM, Montana Rural Education Association, MEA, MFT, etc. And as many of you may well know, but perhaps some of our viewing public doesn't know, the same crew of folks were really working together to really work on funding for public education. And tomorrow there's going to be a virtual lobbying day. So I want to talk a little bit about how you also, and all of us here, can be a virtual lobbyist tomorrow morning to really get that word to our legislators that there's some great bills started, and we want to make sure that they are kept in line with public education and not moving into privatization. So I'm going to give you a few talking points and the site to go to. So I'm going to give you the site now and then also at the end, so hopefully you can get it one or the other. So it's www.leg.mt.gov, www.leg.mt.gov. And on that site, you can contact any of the legislators. It's awesome if you contact the legislator from your district, so you have that personal touch and that personal connection with them. But you can also kind of give a nudge to those who might not be strong with public education funding as we would like to see it happening. So some other talking points you can share with them. And this, again, came out from that coalition of those pro-public education groups I mentioned earlier. Our Montana public schools are high-performing, and we are very efficient. We offer a tremendous opportunity for higher achievement to children. Our Montana public schools engage communities to support innovation and customization, another talking point. Our Montana public schools are supported by and work in harmony with our Montana voters. Montana voters are in sync with and strongly supportive of the efforts of Montana public schools in fully developing the potential of our kids. And our Montana public schools are unified in support of a long-term vision of success and a legislative plan for the 2013 session. So again, Montana School Board Associations, MEA, MFT, Missoula Rural Education Association, SAM, Montana Quality Education Coalition, we all share this common long-term vision for success of public ed in Montana. We've also gained consensus in our short-term goals that are linked to the achievement of this long-term vision. And we're in support of Senator Lou Jones of Conrad, who's embraced these goals, in LC 132, which will be introduced in bill form here shortly. So at this point tomorrow, we're hoping to have you email your legislators in the morning, kind of a virtual blitz in the morning across the state. We're asking educators and those who support public ed to do this tomorrow morning, to give your support at this time to LC 132. It creates funding and increased flexibility for innovation within districts. It could present some significant school district property tax relief. It's a solution to ensure that income generated off of school trust lands is exclusively devoted to meet the needs of K-12 public schools and the taxpayers that support our schools. And it's an alignment of the success of natural resource development and K-12 public schools and taxpayers. So, with that little nudge, one more time, www.leg.mt.gov. Thanks.
Thanks, Melanie. Great message. Any other items of public comment? All right, Mrs. Allen, you are up. Student recognition begins.
Well, Chairman Rabine, you already kind of let the cat out of the bag, but we have a very unusual and wonderful opportunity this evening to have a visit from the Missoula Education Foundation Student Board. And Dr. Apostle and I and Mark Thane had the pleasure, close to the holiday vacation, to go on a tour, a pretty speed tour with these young ladies and gentlemen across Missoula County Public Schools, where kind of like, super people, they came and awarded, and I'm going to let Marta probably describe what they awarded, but they awarded special things to teachers in Missoula County Public Schools. And I can tell you that Dr. Apostle and I and Mr. Thane had tons of things that we could have been doing. And I will tell you that we said to each other, and now I want to say to you, we very clearly felt there was no other place that we would have rather been that day than with you guys. It was a very special morning. And so we thought it was important that these young ladies and gentlemen also get to meet the members of the Missoula County Public Schools Board of Education, or Board of Trustees. So Marta Pierpoint is there. Well, you know, she's the CEO of the MEF, I guess. That's what I would call you. And I do know that the whole concept of student board is something that Marta brought to the MEF. And as a person who actually many years ago got to serve on a mayor's council in the town where I grew up, I know how special it is to be a young person and get to participate in the business of your community. So I have to really appreciate Marta for making sure this happened. Marta.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you so much. And it was indeed a very fun day that we all spent together. And I'm going to actually allow the students to describe it a little bit. But I'm going to give you just a little bit of background. Thank you for having us here this evening. I am the executive director of the Missoula Education Foundation. And our mission is to enhance public education by promoting community investment in Missoula's most vital resource, our children. And about a year ago, I said, I think maybe we should actualize our mission by the creation of a student board. And everyone who participated was enthusiastically supportive, including Karen, Alan, and Dr. Apostle. And we worked together to develop a set of criteria that we would look for in a student board. And then we asked each of the principals at each high school to select a student or two, in this case 2 from each high school, to represent the community at MEF on the school board. And our students are, well, some of our students, one of our students isn't here this evening. Some of our students are here tonight, but they have served on the board for a year now. And to this day, I don't think they have any idea what the selection criteria were and why they were selected. And they didn't know each other before they came to participate in the activities that they'll describe. But I thought I would use this moment, if you don't mind, to read the selection criteria. I would like them to know why they were chosen. Students must have a proven record of reliability. Students who commit to the board will be expected to attend meetings and complete work in between meetings in a timely fashion. The ability to work with others in a group, both peers and adults, is essential. The ability to communicate ideas both verbally and in writing. Creative thinking and enthusiastic support for positive change in our public schools. The ability to represent their school to the community in a highly professional manner. And I want to say that every single one of these students has exceeded my expectations in every regard. And it has been such an honor and such a pleasure working with them in the last year, and my life has been enriched by just working with them. And they have had many opportunities, and they've expanded what we ever thought that they would do, because they exceeded every one of our expectations, and I'm honored to be here and proud to introduce them. Rachel Tillman.
First, I would like to thank all of you for having the MEF Student Board here today. It's a great honor, and we are very pleased to be here. Like she said, my name is Rachel Tillman, and I am one of the representatives from Big Sky High School. And I will be telling you a little bit about what we've done so far this year. We've actually had a pretty busy year. We chose the Outstanding Middle School Teacher Award, and as part of our crazy day of giving awards and giving grants to all the schools, we actually met the teacher who was from Washington Middle School at Community Hospital. So he was able to receive the award in front of a group of his peers, which I think was really exciting for him and for everyone involved. I can't really tell you exactly what he teaches because one of the reasons that he was chosen is that he teaches and coaches many different things. He teaches a lot of different academic courses and also coaches multiple sports teams at Washington Middle School. So that's one of the things that we've done this year. Another is that we selected a number of creative grants for the fall session in 2012 for middle school, elementary school, and high school. And to be pretty general, the three grants that we awarded were for music, FALF, and robotics. And we are all very excited about these things. The robotics class was, we gave money for a class of elementary school students to be able to purchase a robot and an extra battery. And when we presented, they were all very excited, and it was definitely a highlight of my school year, for sure. I would like to say thank you very much to Kari Johnson. Would you stand up, please? Thank you very much, Kari, and DirecTV. Without your support, none of this would be possible. So thank you very, very much. Would you like to say anything?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Kari Johnson with DirecTV.
Kari, could I ask you to come to the mic with Rachel, please? This is televised through MCAT, and they won't be able to hear you without the microphone.
Again, I'm Kari Johnson with DirecTV, and we have the unique opportunity to help fund the student board. About a year ago, Marta came to me, and we'd met for the first time, and I want to say it's love at first sight. We were so excited about this idea, and it's a unique idea for DirecTV. We're a small community. We're one of the largest employers in town, and our corporate mission is to support K-12 causes. It was a match made in heaven, and we're really excited. We get to be engaged with these young kids. We provide them a place to have their meetings. We, again, fund some of the creative grants and especially the teacher recognition program. Also, we created a campaign with the Missoula Education Foundation and KPAX to show some of this footage from our day last month. So catch it on KPAX. It's at 5:30, and it shows the teacher winning the award and the students presenting it. I think Alex, you're in there also. Dr. Apostle, thank you. You're going to be flashed on TV, but we're really excited. DirecTV is a proud sponsor of this organization, and we're going to continue it on in the future. But thank you. Thanks, Rachel.
And one last thing before I leave, I'd like to say thank you again, and I know that myself and the rest of the members of the student board are all very excited to help select our successors for next year. So thank you very much.
Now, do we get to hear from each member of the student board?
Yes, you do.
Okay,
they
great.
will hopefully flesh out the rest of the picture. They've done a lot this year. So one of our school board members is also one of your school board members. Tanner?
Is it okay if I just stay here and talk? Okay. Well, one of the things you like to see when forming a board like this, and especially a new board, is you look for stepping stones along the way that really progress the board and make it into what it's become right now. One of those stepping stones we got to experience was we were awarded the Nonprofit of the Month by Cherry Creek Radio. And part of what we got to do is we got to go in and record a radio advertisement for a fundraiser we put on at Missoula Children's Theater. The fundraiser was a phenomenal success. I mean, Mayor John Engen was the auctioneer, and he always throws his comedy spin in with his auctioning. But it was just a really nice experience to finally be able to have that stepping stone that really pushed us into this field of success. And I know, and I speak for myself, and I think on behalf of the student board when I say this, but it's been a phenomenal experience being able to outreach in our community through opportunities like Cherry Creek Radio sponsorships, which gets our voices on the radio and gets really the MEF Student Board and the Missoula Education Foundation heard within the Missoula community, because what we do is a very good and a very productive process that really benefits the community and MCPS as a whole. So.
Thanks, Tanner. Richard?
Hello, my name's Richard Twiggs. I'm a senior at Sentinel High School, along with Tanner. And together, along with the rest of the MEF board guys, we've been going through this thing for quite a while now, having a lot of fun along the way, learning a lot of things. And something I'd like to specifically do is take a moment to thank the MEF specifically for kind of being, at least how I feel in my opinion, a parent board for us. We've borrowed a lot of concepts from them. We've kind of structured ourselves in a model of them. We've actually had some of their members on our board as well. And really it just kind of gave us a launching pad for how this thing that we all have been passionate about is supposed to work. And so we kind of knew what to do. And so I'd just like to say thank you to the MEF and MARTA for all of that. Thank you.
Erica? I'd just like to say that two of our board members come all the way from Sealy Lake, and I really am very grateful for their participation, and this is one of them.
Hi, I'm Erica Brushbill from Sealy Swan High School. I'm a senior. As Rachel brought up, part of one of the great things we get to do on the MEF Student Board is recognize a teacher for their extraordinary work inside and outside of the classroom. On the Student Board, we designed this process to implement throughout the schools, and the first one we did was directed towards the high schools, and we made a ballot and sent it out to all the students, and then after that we collected all the ballots and went through them, and at a meeting we nominated the one teacher that we thought deserved the award most, so that was Mr. Trey Stone from Sealy Swan High School. And then this time we went to the middle schools, and we decided on Mr. Gregory Imhoff for all his great work. So it's just a really great experience and really nice to go out and recognize teachers that deserve it for all their great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna.
Hi, my name's Brianna Novak, and I'm from Sealy Lake. I'm also a senior. I just wanted to say that an exception to Austin, all of us are seniors and will be graduating, and so to take our spots, we will be hand-picking a junior that will fulfill our spots as good as we are.
I'm really not sure that's possible, but I look forward to the selections. And there are two student board members that are not present tonight that I would like to recognize, Austin Graff and Aaron Kerner. Aaron is at a basketball game, and I'm guessing that Austin might be there as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Now, Marta, one of the things that we like to do when we have outstanding students with us is to recognize them individually. We have a certificate for each of them, so we'd like them to come up so we can shake their hands. And if any of you have parents here tonight, we would like you to introduce your parents as well.
How would you like them to proceed to come up and get their certificates?
They can all stand and move around. We do have one comment, maybe more than one comment. We'll
sorry.
take comments before we do the recognition. Trustee Dirk.
First of all, welcome to the MEF board. I want to make sure that we recognize the person who likely had a hand in coming up with this idea, Marta Pierpont. As all of you are already likely aware, Marta is a member of our community who consistently shows up. And I don't know if you've heard the expression, the world is run by people who show up. Marta doesn't just show up, she shines when she gets there. Marta, thank you for your leadership with MEF. As with everything else that you've done for this community, with education in particular, it's fantastic to see MEF shining. I was on the original board of the Missoula Education Foundation when we got it started. And our initial board meetings were always a little rocky. We weren't sure if the torch that was MEF would burn brightly or go out. With Marta carrying that torch, and with contributors like Corey Johnson and others, and ex officio members like Dr. Apostle, it's great to see this organization thriving. You carry that torch now. We're all so proud of you. Thank you for being a part of it, and Marta especially. Thanks again from everybody here and the entire community.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful comment. Thank you, Trustee Dirk. Does any other trustee have a comment or a question for Marta before we individually thank our student trustees? Dr. Apostle does.
Well, Marta, there's no question that this would not be happening without your leadership, without your creativity and innovation. I mean, it just turns out that this is a wonderful activity involving our students in something that's relevant and meaningful in the community, and having the great responsibility of determining excellence in teaching. It's a wonderful activity, and we hope that it continues. And you're going to be selecting the board for next year, I understand. Is that correct? They have a lot to live up to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add on a personal note that I was able to be in attendance at the fundraiser that Tanner had talked about, and it was a remarkable evening, and in organization, in structure, and in function, and to see all of you who were there participating in our You As Smart as an MCPS student was really exciting. There weren't very many people in the crowd who were as smart as an MCPS student, that is. So hats off to all of you, and to Marta for the creative idea and the terrifically enjoyable evening that I think raised a great deal of money for your organization and for our teachers.
Yeah,
so that's great.
I was just glad I didn't have to answer any of the questions.
I didn't answer any either. So. Okay, so what we'd like to do, students, I'm going to have each of you stand. If you have a parent in the audience, you can introduce them as you come by the mic. If you don't, we'll start with Trustee Smith, and we'll say hi and congratulations to you. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. That was just great. And now we get to recognize some of our outstanding staff members. Mr. Sturgis, are you here to get the ball rolling?
Hi.
All right. Bye, students.
Thanks, guys. I'm Jack Sturgis. I'm the principal at Lewis and Clark, and I brought my calendar, which is, of course, synced to my iPad, because I am a 21st century guy. Some of us should be old-fashioned, don't you agree? I am very lucky that I work for an incredible group of people at Lewis and Clark. We have teachers, of course, with BAs, and people working on their masters, and people with MAs. And our next guest has a PhD. She is an incredibly talented teacher. She is the recipient of an award, the Pam Atchison Memorial Reading Award, but let me give you a little background. Leslie Farrell, Dr. Leslie Farrell, has been teaching for Missoula County Public Schools for 26 years. She's been a second grade, third grade, and now a fifth grade teacher. She's also a University of Montana adjunct professor in its graduate school of education. The Montana Reading Council was established in 1951 and coordinates statewide activities to improve literacy at all levels. It was chartered as a state liaison in 1970 with the International Reading Association. It conducts an annual yearly conference, which happens during the MEA days in October. And it supports local councils and provides scholarships, awards, and grants to educators across the state. The Pam Atchison Memorial Reading Award is awarded to a teacher or librarian in the state of Montana who has promoted, encouraged, and inspired literacy with students, peers, and the community. Would you come up, please? This is the 2012 winner of the Pam Atchison Memorial Reading Award. It is awarded in memory of Missoula's beloved librarian Pam Atchison, who passed away from cancer while employed by MCPS. So I give you the very talented Dr. Leslie Farrell.
Thank you all very much. Dr. Davis told me I had an opportunity for a few remarks, so I will take this opportunity. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Sturgis, and also thank you to the board. It's very kind of you to recognize me this evening, and I appreciate it very much. I just want you to know that in my quarter of a century plus years with this district, I've always considered the true reward to be in the classroom. I consider those the children with whom I work every single day, the fun and the laughter and the learning that we have together, that's my reward. And I thank you for the privilege of being a public school teacher. Thank you. I have one other remark, very short. I want to thank Dr. Apostle for your quick response to forming a task force to ensure safety within the schools. I understand you have now looked at it, 3 components, and I appreciate that very much, and I look forward to the measures that will be implemented. So thank you very much, and thank you all again very much for having me this evening. Thank you.
Mrs. Farrell, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come and be with us this evening so that we can shine the spotlight on you, and thank you personally for your terrific contributions and many years of service to this district. It really is an honor to be able to congratulate you personally. Yeah, you're welcome. And now, oh, I'm sorry, and Mrs. Wills.
I also want to express my deep gratitude to you, Mrs. Farrell, as my daughter, who is a junior in high school, still considers you her most inspiring teacher. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Dr. Schmidt.
Well, I am excited tonight to also recognize another staff member, Linda Simon, if you'll join us. She is our health services supervisor for Missoula County Public Schools, a role she has played for many years in this district. Linda is a registered nurse, and she serves as a supervisor for all MCPS nurses, in addition to advising the district on many health-related issues. She serves on a number of district committees, including the Graduation Matters Student Wellness Subcommittee, And tonight I have the privilege of sharing just a small portion of her great work. Through her commitment and dedication, Linda has secured donated funds to ensure that every school building in Missoula County Public Schools has an AED in place. This is a life-saving device that adds to the health, safety, and wellness of all MCPS students, staff, and community members. As a district, we would like to thank Linda for her ongoing efforts. And Linda, perhaps you'd like to share some more details about that work.
Thank you very much. I guess one of the things I wanted to say was I don't really feel responsible for this program. I feel responsible for the little details, but I wanted to share how the program started. And in the spring of 2009, Candy and I actually went to Dr. Apostle, and he gave the concept of having AEDs in the district his blessings. And in fact, more than that, he gave it more of a directive that we would do that. So that's how that all started. And then that following summer, the policy was developed, and I want to thank Bea quite a bit for the policy development and also answering many, many different questions and worries we had about that. Leslie Brassfield was extremely instrumental in this, and she worked really hand in hand with me. I don't feel like this was just my thing at all. We had a fundraising group in which Karen Allen participated and Dr. Knapp participated as well. And then, of course, we have a lot of donors. And just to tell you how this has gone, each AED, and I brought, this is a trainer, and this is the size of an AED. It comes in a red case, and it sits in a white cabinet. This building will end up being one of the only buildings without one in just a short time. Each AED comes with 3 sets of pads, 2 adults and 1 child pad, and the total cost for that is a little over $1,500. There are 22 current AEDs, and there are 2 more pending ones, which I haven't announced that yet. A second one will be going to Washington, and then one will be going to the administration building. And that most recent one, I have to always think about who's donated most recently, but I believe that one would be coming, those 2 would be coming from the Western Montana Clinic physicians. And it was quite nice of them to give it to a building without students, just for staff as well. So as of last month, all schools that have students have an AED in place. And as we heard earlier, Willard was one of the last schools of that. All these cabinets are unlocked, so the community has access to AEDs. They're in locations where the community would be seeing them. There are signs placed where if the community is in the building in the evening for various meetings, hopefully they would be seeing signs pointing to where the AEDs are placed. The donation sources have included the St. Patrick Foundation for a total of 4 AEDs, the Western Montana Clinic physicians 3 AEDs. Several private donors have donated. Porter's Student Council raised money for their AED. A local church had given Franklin their AED, and then Sealy was partially funded with the Rural Access Grant. And we also have over 60 AED providers. The state has some laws about how you put them into place, and so we require each building to hopefully have several people that maintain certification, although any layperson can pick it up and use it. But there are 60 staff members who do quarterly proficiencies every year to do this. And I guess that's all I have. Any questions at all?
Linda, I have nothing but praise for your effort. I know you recognized a lot of different people, but it was you that pushed this right along, and we're very appreciative of your work. The only thing I want to ask, how quick can you get that? No, I'm just kidding.
We could have one in this building with about $1,500. So it's the last one. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? You're not getting off that easily, Linda. I'm sorry. All right. Again, many thanks for many years and work in lots of different areas for our district. And we'd like to recognize you individually as well, please.
Oh, okay.
And Mrs. Allen, we have some more wonderful people to recognize this evening.
We do. One of the opportunities that I have is to essentially be in charge of special education in Missoula County Public Schools. And I actually, not everybody knows this, I come by this pretty honestly. I'm a speech pathologist in my first life. I've taught center-based programs. Probably most people here don't know that. And so it's been a real pleasure this year to go out and visit our programs in the schools with Dr. Apostle. Now, I do have to say that we haven't gotten to all the programs in Region 1 yet. So some of you are going to look at me and say, like, who are you? What are you doing? But we are scheduled, I've been promised, to get to all of them. But one of the things that we really did want to do is recognize in a very special way what goes on in what we call our center-based programs. And these are programs that are regionally based, and they serve a range of students who participate in a variety of activities within our schools. And so we wanted to be able to say a very special thank you to the teachers. And next month, we will be also recognizing your support people from Region 1. So we want to be sure that we also say a great shout out to the ladies and gentlemen who support our center-based programs. And because Mr. Thane is the leader of Region 1, I wanted to be sure he had the opportunity to very personally introduce these people.
Thank you, Karen. The work that's conducted in our center-based programs is very special work. It takes a lot of patience. Oftentimes progress is very highly individualized. And the teachers and the support staff that work in those programs put in a lot of hours in terms of preparation, in terms of identifying materials, in terms of direct instruction, and behavior support. Again, it takes a very special person, and we are fortunate to have a number of wonderful individuals staffing those programs, not only in Region 1, but throughout the district. And it certainly is my pleasure to introduce them tonight. First, from the Extended Resource Low Enrollment Program at Chief Charlo School, we have teacher Ann Kierkegaard. And although Karen mentioned that we have support staff on tap to be recognized next month, we do have a paraeducator from Chief Charlo here tonight also, Tammy Easton Young. So if they would stand up, please. Come on up. We'll form a line over here. Why don't you come on up, Andy? Cold Springs houses the Structured Learning Program. And when the Missoula Education Foundation Student Board went out to do their presentations for mini grants, the first classroom we went to was to provide the robotics materials to Tracy Hardy's class. Tracy's been a participant also in our TEDx adventures in the district, and certainly a great asset at Cold Springs, and we appreciate that. Rob Henthorn is not here this evening from Russell School, but Rob teaches the Extended Resource K2 program at Russell. I didn't see if Peggy was here. Oh, yep, Peggy, how are you? Peggy Dunning is the 3-5 Extended Resource at Russell. Is Lisa here? Oh, way in the back. Lisa, come on up. Lisa Partaker is Life Skills at Meadow Hill Middle School. Brenda Sweeney has the Intensive Structured Learning Program at Meadow Hill, and Brenda is not here this evening. From Sentinel, we have a number of staff members. Heather Nile, Ron Beck, and Matthew Long. And those three individuals work with our high school structured learning program. We have members of the Life Skills program. I did not see Leo this evening. Is he back? Boy, everybody's doing well at hiding from me. Leo Doherty. Come on. Laura Coulter. Sue Fury. Andrea Felton. And Sue Paith. So again, I would like to express my appreciation for the very high quality work that's conducted in those programs in Region 1 and present to the board those special education staff members from our region that work in center-based programs. So thank you for your service. Okay, Ann, why don't you start the round?
I'm gonna introduce you guys. I have to introduce you guys. Oh yes, I do.
Well, it's so great to have you all here with us tonight. Thank you and congratulations, and thanks for all your great work. All right, trustees, we'll move on to our reports. Our Health Insurance Trust Fund reports in the packet, as our committee reports. And now we have announcements from trustees. Anybody have anything you'd like to share with the public tonight? Trustee Toth.
This is just, as most of you know, that I want to do occasionally is find information in other media outlets or whatever and bring that to us. And it's just some of the things we do well in this district, but to keep our eye on this sort of ball. It was just interesting. This came about and happened to do with jobs and stuff, and a news thing that was reporting on jobs in our, and of course, jobs and employment is a big news as our legislature starts up on day 2, and we have to be attuned to that even in the educational sense. But what it did is these are Department of Labor statistics, and they talked about unemployment. And the unemployment rate amongst college graduates is under 4% in this country. We think we have an unemployment problem. If you're a college graduate, your unemployment rate in this country is still in the 3-point fraction range. On the other end of the scale, if you have not completed high school, the unemployment rate is about 12%. And, you know, that's probably, you know, and then a high school only is 8%. And like I said, some colleges, I think it's like 6.9. And like I said, so if you have a bachelor's or better, you have less than 4% unemployment. So when we look at that, we think, well, we don't have to mention that to us. We all understand as Board of Trustees of a school district the value of a high school education. Graduation, that's ingrained. That's maybe not the point that I'm coming to. But then the number one reason in our country, as we probably can all guess, for not having that bachelor's is money across the board. And so those things that sometimes we have to think about from that aspect of how we create our educational system in this county, and we've done some wonderful things on that. We had a great example tonight with the dual credit and the IB programs that we've got going. Any of those things that not only prepare our students for college education, but get them a step or two along financially. I mean, some of these things, when kids can come in already with dual credit at a much better rate than paying it at the normal tuition, that works out well. Of course, the other thing we have to keep our eye on the ball about in our, of course, and we done a great job, I think, on that, and all of our initiatives that we've got going on now is making sure they can be successful in college. There is quite a difference here between the big first jump in statistics is between having that degree and just completing some college. And so how do we get our kids through colleges, having them prepared to go into college? And we've heard that from many people who come from the university. Like we had a great example of that tonight, and other businesses that we've had come and talk to this board at other times, and those or not even traits, that were all the skills and qualifications that those students need, and we're doing a great job in the district. So I just thought, maybe it's a little bit of a pat on our own back, but to keep our eye on that ball for the future. Those things matter in our country, because you'll hear a lot of political news here in the next legislative session. It's all about jobs and stuff like that. There's where jobs are, right there, the college education. So, and education in general, as we well know. So that was that, just some data.
Thank you, Trustee Toth. Other comments from trustees? Trustee Sadler.
I wanted to mention the Sentinel High School, what they calling it dual credit, which I like to call it more like a college and high school, because in fact you receive a college transcript when you go through that program, which is extremely important, and it's a wonderful program that Sentinel has. And while she was talking about the new alternative medias and so forth, I was sitting here thinking that, well, actually, I have a son who is in that alternative media right now. He has an online magazine that he publishes, and I don't quite understand yet how it all works, how he earns money, but he does earn money off it. And it's an international magazine that people access all over the world, and it's about pigeons, which is his great hobby. And if anybody knows me, has been to my home, I still own pigeons he bought when he was 12, or I bought, and I'm still having. I had an aunt once who was her son bought a gerbil, and the thing lived for 18 years, and as a parent, you have to feed them forever. My pigeons, they lived up to 25 years. So I don't know how many more years they have, but they keep on having new ones. So it looks like I have pigeons forever, but we do love them, and it is I do check my son's magazine, and it's very interesting, and I learn a lot. And it is a new world out there and a new way of looking things. So that's all what I'm sharing.
Thanks for sharing that, Trustee Sadler. Other comments from trustees? Trustee Knapp.
Two things. First of all, along the lines of what opportunities there are for kids from Missoula. We at the Heart Institute here in Missoula are interviewing 3 new partners this month. Just so happens that all 3 of them are graduates of Missoula County Public Schools. 2 are presently in their final years of residency at Mayo Clinic, 1 at the University of Colorado. 2 are Hellgate graduates, 1's a Sentinel graduate. They are extraordinary people who want to come back to this town because of many of the things and opportunities that it availed for them. So I think that while we struggle an awful lot of times and we look at problems and issues, there are a lot of successes, a lot of real life successes out there. And this is the first for us to have this many. And they'll actually be joining a couple of other of our members, assuming they all come, who are also Missoula County Public School graduates. So kudos to the teachers in this fine institution. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I gave Alex, Dr. Apostle, just before the meeting, an article and a series of pamphlets that I got alerted to me, published in the New York Times today, a final report from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation of a 4-year project looking at teacher evaluations. And for those of you who want to look at a very thoughtful treatise on, and really a very well done, clinically relevant piece of data on how to evaluate teachers, the website to go to is metproject, MET, not meth, metproject.org. It's available online right now, the entire published report, press release today in the New York Times. It's quite a remarkable treatise on what 3,000 teachers in the United States participated, a 4-year project looking at various ways of doing teacher evaluations in a really thoughtful fashion. So I really encourage folks, any of you who are interested, to take a look at that, metproject, one word, .org.
Thank you, Dr. Knapp. Dr. Apostle.
Dr. Knapp, you mentioned 3,000 teachers in 7 public schools across the country.
Any other comments from trustees? I'd like to publicly congratulate Trustee Toth on his retirement from the fire department for how many years? Yeah. Go, go, go. You'll all notice that staying physically fit is one of the requirements for being a firefighter. Yeah. He's all right. All right. Let's move on. Thank you, trustees. We're going on with teaching and learning, and Mr. Mark Thane.
Thank you, and I didn't realize Trustee Toth had retired. Congratulations. I would like to take his earlier comments as a bit of a springboard. The first item on the Region 1 list is Graduation Matters Missoula. We have been the recipients of a grant from Graduation Matters Montana, which was funded by the Student Assistance Foundation. The intent of the grant is to assist Missoula families, and particularly our senior students, in completing the free application for federal student aid. As Mr. Toth in his comments talked about the cost of college being a barrier. The state of Montana estimates hundreds of thousands of dollars are left on the table annually because students and families do not complete the FAFSA. So we submitted a competitive grant, were awarded, and in the next month and a half we'll be undertaking activities to try and reach out to our families in Missoula County Public Schools and assist them in completing the FAFSA so that they can access federal student loans, grants, as well as need-based scholarships. So again, very important activity of Graduation Matters Missoula. Secondly, I know Dr. Apostle previously shared with you via email the official state completion rates for the AA high schools. At that time, it did not include the numbers for Sealy, and I do have those tonight also. What I would like to do is just talk, first of all, about where we are in terms of dropouts, 4-year cohort graduation rate, and completion rates. And all the numbers are different. And we've discussed at length the difference between dropout and graduation rate. The completion rate that you have, and I'll give you those percentages momentarily, is important because it represents all the students who were eligible from the class of 2012 to graduate and the percentage that did so. 19 of those students, however, did not graduate on time by June. They had obligations they needed to complete during the summer session in order to finish the requirements for their diploma. They count as completers. So the percentages that we'll list today are those that did complete successfully. That's the most important number. You will find from the state releases official 4-year cohort graduation numbers later, they'll be slightly less than this because those 19 students did not graduate on time. And the 4-year cohort is based on those students who graduate on time. That calculation is required as part of AYP calculations. So again, we have all these numbers flowing from the state. This is the first one, and it's probably the most important. In terms of the schools in Missoula County Public School in alphabetical order, Big Sky High School class of 2012, 88.3% completion rate. Hellgate, 85.5% completion rate. Sealy Swan High School, 91.3% completion rate. And Sentinel High School, 92.3% completion rate. We don't have data on all Montana high schools at present, but we do have the data for the 14 Class AA high schools. And our 3 urban high schools are 3 of the top 4 in the state. Sentinel's rate at 92.3 is the only AA high school to exceed 90%. Big Sky at 88.3 is second in the state. Bozeman snuck in there at 86.5%, and Hellgate at 85.5% is fourth in the state in AA's. Only 5 schools hit the 85% or higher mark, and the state average was 83.5%. So again, the state average has ticked up a little bit. It was 81% when Graduation Matters Montana was initiated. However, our growth in terms of graduation has been significant. Our numbers steadily improve. We'll look forward to the official graduation numbers probably within the next month. But again, the effects of Graduation Matters Missoula, the hard work of staff and community is certainly paying dividends. And we're encouraged by the numbers and continue to recognize that we have additional work to do. With regard to current dropout rates, my monthly report, at this point we have 48 students who are listed as dropouts during the course of the 2012-2013 year. I took some time to go look through the data sheets, and one thing that I found interesting, and again illustrates a point that I've brought before you previously, 19 of the 48 students who are on our list have dropout dates that are listed as August of 2012. They're students who were with us last June when the school year ended, and were not with us when school started August 27th or 28th, whatever our opening day was. We may recover some of those students because if they enroll out of state, we'll eventually get requests for records, or if they're within state, their unique identifier will allow us to track them. But 19 students essentially dropped from our rolls over the course of the summer, and that's significant. I suspect that one of the next things we need to do is ascertain how it is we can track those students, how we can make contact and find out if in fact we can reach out to those students and pull them back in if they remain in the Missoula area. But nearly 50% of our current dropouts are students who just did not return to school in the fall. Second item on my list today is Common Core State Standard implementation. And last month at the public comment section of the board meeting, you heard Joe Fisher talk about the 2 professional development days for staff in August on the theme of Common Core, and that in his 19 years in the school district, that was the best professional development that he'd experienced. And I would submit to you there are a couple reasons that that's true. And that is because, number one, it's very relevant to what's happening in the classrooms. But number two, the way we've approached this professional development is that it's ongoing, sustained professional development, and we've identified teacher leadership teams to do this work within their building. So in August, we brought teams of teachers together, gave them 2 days of intense training, provided a number of resources, including live binder resources that they could access to provide professional development to their own staff. And they've been conducting activities then within their own buildings to teach the rest of the staff about Common Core and about the Common Core implementation. And it's been a very effective model. We'll continue that with the leadership teams for Common Core from each school coming together again for a day in February for additional training on the next right steps for them to take with regard to professional development in their staff. We have another day scheduled for April. So we continue this. It's sustained, it's ongoing, and of course at Teaching and Learning you've heard a lot about the Common Core implementation. There's been a lot in the literature. I think it'll be really healthy for us. Denise Dowling tonight talked about writing skills. She also talked about grammar. Both of those have a new emphasis in the Common Core State Standards. So we're excited about the project. The hard work continues, and certainly kudos to Alana Van Epps and the instructional coaches for the yeoman's work they've done. It's not always easy to teach your colleagues, yet they've provided the appropriate resources for those building leadership teams to provide some wonderful professional development for our staff. And it's our best teachers teaching teachers, and that's the reason it's successful. Third on my list is career and technical education. Again, come back to Mr. Toth's comments. Bureau of Labor and Industry statistics are important to us, and we in December brought in representatives from the Office of Public Instruction, the Office of Commissioner of Higher Education, our own career and technical education staff, and representatives from the Missoula College to initiate dialogue about career pathways. We undertake a lot of activities in career and technical ed that are somewhat dated. And the new emphasis is to look at the Bureau of Labor and Industry statistics and ask ourselves, number one, are the programs that we're providing helping students to develop skills that will enhance their opportunities to successfully engage in a career. And number two, will those courses successfully matriculate, and will they be able to go on to post-secondary activities? Do they articulate through the system? And unless they meet those two criteria, it's not a place that we want to invest our time and our energy, and certainly our very valuable resources. So we're identifying career pathways that include concurrent enrollment dual credit options through the career and technical ed fields, and also those opportunities to link and articulate directly with higher education, and certainly to provide our students upon graduation with some entry-level job skills in jobs that are currently in demand. So we'll continue work on those pathways, and we'll bring forward to the trustees in late spring some of the work that we do. We will actually have to generate plans that we submit to OPI for their approval. We also need to develop some memorandum of understanding with the Missoula College for that concurrent enrollment and for the articulation agreements moving forward. But this is a really important first step for us in terms of redefining what career and technical education is in Missoula County Public Schools. And it's just been a wonderful time. I think the teachers have really taken ownership. In fact, a group of industrial technology teachers actually met over Christmas break for a number of hours to do some of their pathway work. It's very relevant, very exciting, and I certainly appreciate all of their efforts. Any questions?
Let's start with Trustee Dupree and go to Trustee Knapp.
I was curious if we could get any Class C graduation.
That will be released by the state later this year. It'll come out at about the same time the graduation rates come out, in addition to the completion rate. So I did ask Linda Sims to check with OPI today, and she could not get that data at this point. But we will get it as soon as it's available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Rabine. Mark, question for you on the dropouts. Of those who have been identified as dropout or who are lost, do you have any sense on how many of them the district or the schools, in particular the buildings in particular, had previously in some fashion or another identified as being at risk for dropping out? Do we have any sense of that?
An excellent question. I do know, based on the experience at Sentinel, that there were 2 students who were enrolled in Sentinel in June who did not return this fall. There are notes that the on-time graduation committee at Sentinel had looked at those students, one in particular, a number of interventions listed. Part of the problem is we do make contact if we have current phone numbers, etc. The situation with one student, I know that she's no longer living in her house with her parents. There's been a bit of friction there, and so we have not been able to get to that child individually, but number of contacts, and certainly was was identified as highly at risk.
Other questions or comments, trustees, for Mr. Thane?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thane. And now we'll move to Dr. David Schmidt.
Thank you, Chairman Rabine. First, I'll start with an update on where we're at with International Baccalaureate programs. Hellgate High School continues to refine the list of curriculum materials that they are going to need for year 2 of the diploma program. They've also scheduled additional training for this spring for those teachers that need that training, and also to expand the course offerings for IB. The art teachers are all working closely together and are very excited about an art show that they have scheduled for this spring, which is part of their external evaluation or assessments that the students will take, and we will certainly send an invite to all of you. Let's see. Students are preparing for first semester final exams right now. Some of those final exams include aspects of the internal and external exams that will be used for their final grades and will play a role in that final college level coursework grade. At Lewis and Clark, staff continues to work on their feasibility study. They're nearly done with that work, and they are discussing the best timing for bringing the primary year's training program to Missoula. They're looking at July and August at this point. In the area of language immersion, It's exciting to announce that Paxson has presented itself as the most feasible location to implement our first dual language immersion program as part of the MCPS 21st Century Model of Education. Paxson Principal Kelly Chumrah, myself, and the staff at Paxson are just beginning the phases of working out the details and how that implementation will take place. At the end of January, I will be bringing to you at the Personnel Policy and Negotiations Committee meeting a policy specific to dual language immersion, and our recommendation, of course, will be that you approve that policy. In the area of student recognition, the Student Recognition Advisory Committee presented at the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee yesterday. And specifically, we shared 7 foundational belief statements, some analysis of the current recognition practices in place, and the work we've done to develop some consistent practices for recognition at the commencement ceremony. That's just a starting point for us. We still have much work to do. We received some really helpful feedback yesterday from the trustees that are part of the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee, which will be part of our ongoing work. And the next steps are to implement some of the recommended changes, but not specific to commencement, but not for the 2013 commencement, but those would be recommendations for the 2014 commencement ceremony. In the area of grading practices, our committee will soon begin our next steps. We have plans to meet again at the end of this month. We are looking to develop a document that will outline our conversations that we've also shared at the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee. And also in April, as part of our Common Core leadership training with all building level teams, we'll begin moving that conversation to the area of assessment and building background knowledge specific to 21st century grading practices that we will implement in Missoula County Public Schools. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Heather. And now Mrs. Allen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. In the area of the 21st Century Strategic Plan, the area that we have put quite a bit of effort in this year is ongoing, sustained professional development for our leadership team, for our principals and our coordinators. And we have 3 of the elements of the 21st century model are personalized professional development, collaboration, and communication. And almost every Tuesday morning, our leadership team at 7 o'clock meets and is working together to develop strategies for implementation of the 21st century model of education. And I can honestly say, and I've been a member of the Missoula County Public Schools leadership team for 20 years, and I can honestly say that we are having discussions about our real work at a level that we've not had before. And I think it's important. We talk about the professional learning for our teachers. It's important that we also keep a focus on the professional learning for our leadership team. And one of the things that has happened in the last 6 weeks is that each member of the team wrote an action plan in terms of implementing specific components of professional learning communities and the 21st century model. So I think this is an important part of our 21st century strategic plan. Health Science Academy, this is the time when you get to the next phase. You know, MCT talks about moving to the next phase. The Health Science Academy is moving to the next phase. Principal Lebowski put out an invitation for staff who wanted to apply to teach in the academy, to have a second group. I think those applications are due back near the end of this month. The second part is that we're also, again, reaching out to students in all the feeder schools saying, you have an invitation to be part of the Health Science Academy. Another thing that is kind of a side note about the Health Science Academy students, they took a trip to the university recently, and this fits into what Ms. Dowling was talking about earlier. Part of their preparation for participating in these off-campus activities is they are learning those skills of how to look someone in the eye, how to shake their hand, how to say hello to them, and also to leave your cell phone away from where you are. So these are, and it's fascinating. The university folks were very impressed with how well the students did. Looking at robotics and electronics, very exciting. The high school group got their directions, and they have flying emails between the coaches, the kids, and their mentors about just how are we going to go about this build. And so that's very exciting. Also, our middle school robotics program is just going great guns. And they will be participating in a kind of a regional opportunity this next Saturday at Target Range, which will be a collaboration between Missoula County Public Schools, Target Range, and Hellgate Elementary. On a kind of side note, we learned this week that there's a group of young girls, women, at Washington Middle School who have proposed that we have a girls-only robotics team. And I spoke to Scott Edge about that, and we're going to move forward after the competition in February. And that will be, the competition for middle schoolers is in Bozeman in early February, and kids are really anxious to go, and all of the families will be going with their kids. So it's going to be a very exciting time. And that's what I have to share.
Thank you. Questions, comments, trustees? Trustee Knapp.
You know, I think it's fascinating. You talk about the Health Science Academy, you talk about robotics as if they're separate. I don't know if any of you saw 60 Minutes on Sunday. If you didn't, you have to see it. It is a strikingly poignant example of the merger and the wedding of health sciences and robotics in a startling way. And so I'm not going to spoil it. You just got to see 60 Minutes if you didn't see it.
All right. Thanks for that tip. Anybody else? Any comments for Mrs. Allen?
I have a comment.
Dr. Apostle does.
Yeah. Karen, you might want to mention that in terms of our planning, we want, we mentioned this at the teaching and learning meeting, but for the benefit of all board members, our intent in regards to robotics is that to implement an integrated approach towards electronics and robotics within our curriculum K-12. And we're striving to make that happen as soon as possible, especially as it relates to our 21st century model of education.
I have the word curriculum right here. I just jumped right over it. This really actually connects to something that Mark was talking about in terms of career and technical education. As we get more organized about how the pieces of the high school integrate, I know that I had a conversation with Trevor this week in terms of, I think we're all talking about finding ways to have the robotics and electronics integrated into the courses that Mark is talking about. I would also say that at the middle school, we're looking at C.S. Porter, we're looking at a project Lead the Way, which is an electronics, robotics, other kinds of engineering. We're looking at that for C.S. Porter. And also, there's a curriculum called Engineering is Elementary, and we're looking at that at Meadow Hill. We also have some activities that you will learn more about over time in our partnership with the University of Montana that will look at robotics, especially for girls, and some weekend and Saturday and outside of school activities.
Anything else? Thank you, Mrs. Allen. All right, trustees, we will now move to item 11J, the General Fund Budget Update with Mr. McHugh.
All right, thank you. This is on page 67, and this item also includes page 68. We went over this at the F&O committee meeting in December. Page 68 is an additional spreadsheet that identifies some greater expenditures or greater detail of expenditures for both general fund items, the elementary and the secondary. The expenditures are on track through this part of the through November, meaning the expenditures are where we'd anticipate them to be. I would point out, as I did at F&O, that we're doing well in the area of utilities at this point in time. So, a little good news. Any questions? Yeah.
Trustee Knapp.
Yeah. What all is encompassed under administrative salaries? Who all's in there?
So administrator salaries would include all of the cabinet, all the principals, assistant principals. One little cleanup that we'll do, if you look on page 68, it includes support services, admin salaries. Those aren't admin salaries. Those are nurses, specialists, OT and PT, special ed services. So we're just going to correct or fix that description. But under administrator salaries, you'll have well, what I just described. The other salaries where you'll find supervisors is under the code 118, which is salaries other, and those would include 4 or 5 supervisory salaries, and that would encompass your administrative and supervisor salaries.
Other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. McHugh.
You bet.
And we'll move on to Building, Grounds, and Transportation update with Mr. Reed.
Good evening. Pretty mild winter so far. That's a good thing. I'll probably jinx that here. Relatively no snow removal. Yeah. Meadow Hill, we had a major boiler failure. That's back online. Finally got that part in, got that thing running. Everything else is operating pretty good. On page 69 and 70 is your monthly building reserve update. We haven't been hitting the building reserve too much, except for that one repair at Meadow Hill at the tune of $18,000. Any questions? Mr. Durek?
Thank you, Mr. Reed. All right. Right now we'll move to approve the personnel report. Is there a motion to do so? Moved by Trustee Knapp. Is there a second? Seconded by Trustee Sadler. All those in favor of approving the personnel report, that is in our packet. And that is approved unanimously. Thank you so much. And on to the consent agenda. We have lots of business items. Under Finance and Operations, to approve claims and the extracurricular report, to approve the out-of-district attendance agreements, to approve grant application summaries from Plum Creek Foundation, USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture Community Food Projects Grant, Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, Salad Bars to Schools Grants, Montana Conference for Exceptional Children, Montana Partnership with Regions for Excellence in STEM, Standards-Based Teaching Renewing Educators Across Montana, and Express to Speak, an MEF grant. To award a bid for computers and monitors, to approve the expansion of bandwidth for internet connection, to authorize addendum to School Wires contract, to approve secretary receptionist position, to authorize a bid for warehouse supplies, and to approve a 3-hour elementary RN position. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Lem. We don't take board comment on the consent agenda, but is there any public comment?
Diane Anderson, Catalog and Systems Specialist for Missoula County Public Schools. As you remember, last January, we committed ourselves to going with the Montana Shared Catalog, which means that we are now hosting our data out with the Montana State Library. And we were able to breeze through our conversion in October. We were actually started a day earlier than expected, that we were able to go live But after that time, we found we were competing with a great deal of other programs and had some real bandwidth issues. And I guess my comment is I really appreciate the board and Mr. Thane and how quickly they reacted to our situation. It has been quite an ordeal for our folks. They've managed to continue to maintain a positive attitude. I'm very proud of the teacher, librarians, and support staff in the libraries that I work with because they've been challenged, but they've continued to teach their classes and do as much as they possibly could. It's not often that things can be reconciled as quickly as this was with the bandwidth, and I want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you reacted as quickly as you did. But I'm also reminded by a copier tech that told me one time that if you only get a machine that's going to give you what you currently have and a little bit more, it won't be long before you're requiring additional resources. And I'm really encouraged at the fact the board is really looking at addressing this in a major way. And I'm hoping that the public will understand, excuse me, that when it takes a lot longer to do what you normally do within a matter of, seconds, it really makes it difficult for our students as well as the staff and the people that support them. But I just want to tell you on behalf of all of our librarians and library staff that we really, really appreciate the step that you've taken forward on the bandwidth. Thank you.
Diane, thanks for being with us tonight to share that comment. Any other public comment? All right, all in favor of approving the, did I ask for a motion? Okay, all in favor of, thank you, of approving the consent agenda. And that passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Thanks for your help, board members. Dr. Apostle, we go to your report.
Thank you, Trustee Rabine. I just want to mention that in terms of our Safety and Security and Mental Health Committee, I met with the co-chairs, Jeff Fee and Mark Muir, and we discussed how we were going to approach security in our school district. And what we've come up with is we're going to organize into 3 subcommittees. One that will focus on mental health, a second that will focus on public safety, and a third that will focus on building security. And we're moving that agenda forward as fast as we can with the intent of having these groups meet before the end of January and then coming up with an agenda and direction that we can share with the public in various ways. The second thing I'd like to, and I've talked with the board on this particular issue before, but I want you to know that technology is a real issue in our district in terms of infrastructure and how we do our work every single day. And I've mentioned in our 2-on-1 meetings that we're planning, and what we would like to do is pursue a tech levy to increase our capacity in terms of our tech levy and to formulate a bond issue to deal specifically with our infrastructure. And we would like to move at a rapid pace to put that to a vote on May 7th. And we'll be going to F&O and to the board with specifics in relation to increasing our tech levy and dealing with our infrastructure. The third thing I want to mention is that I've been asked to speak to the Rotary, the noon Rotary, the morning Rotary, and the Pachyderm Club to talk about the things that are happening in our school district. And I start with a presentation tomorrow at the noon Rotary, and I'm excited to share the great things that are happening in our school district. We have a Finance and Operations Committee meeting Wednesday, January 16th at 12 noon. We have no school, Martin Luther King Day on Monday, January 21st. We have a Personnel Negotiations and Policy Committee meeting on Wednesday, January 30th at 12 noon in room 14. Teaching and Learning Committee meeting Monday, February 4th, 12 noon in the Administrative Building, room 14. The regular board meeting is Tuesday, February 12th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Apostle. We have no old business this evening. We will move to new business to approve the voting direction for Montana High School Association annual meeting proposals. The administration recommends that trustees discuss the proposals and send them forward to the Montana High School Association annual meeting with voting recommendations. Mr. Thane will be here to provide some information and answer some questions, but do I have a motion? Is there a motion to approve? It's been moved by Trustee Dirk. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Trustee Knapp. And we will move to Mr. Thane's presentation and to board questions and discussion.
Thank you, and I'll be very brief. The items under discussion are contained on pages 85 to 96 of the packet. And rather than read all 9 pages, I'll give you a quick summary. There are 6 items that will be voted upon, and although students are not in school on the 21st, the Montana High School Association annual meeting will be conducted that day, and our athletic directors will be participating. The first item up for discussion would define specific criteria for the High School Association Executive Board to use when evaluating appeals. Very straightforward language, and the athletic directors recommend a yes vote on behalf of the district. The second item under consideration is an amendment to the protest and appeal language, and those changes were recommended by High School Association Legal Counsel. And our athletic directors, again, would support the amendment as written. The third item is, again, something that would likely not apply to our 3 urban high schools, potentially at some point could apply to Sealy-Swan. It's adjusting the timeline for reclassification between Class C, Class B, Class A, and Class AA. Currently, those reclassifications happen in November. The new timeline would have them occur in April to facilitate additional time for planning. And our athletic directors recommend a yes vote. The fourth item would essentially deal with enrollment limits on co-ops for football. Again, this does not currently apply to our district. The feeling of the athletic directors was that right now the system seems to be working where it's in place, and so they recommended a no vote, maintaining the status quo. The fifth item is specific to 6-man Class C football, and our district will not be eligible to vote on that item. And the sixth item is an adjustment of weight class limits for wrestling. And it would restructure all the different weight class. The bottom line is ultimately it would eliminate the 98-pound class. The lightest weight class would be the 106-pound class. As Trustee Lem indicated, there's some adjustment in the middle in the 130 to 140-pound class range. Our district recommends voting no, however, on the adjustment. The reason being we have not had an issue with filling the 98-pound weight class, and that's typically true of most of the AA schools. And if 106 becomes the lightest weight class, we potentially could have smaller wrestlers, those 95-pound wrestlers that are wrestling for us currently, who would have to bump up to the 106-pound class. So the recommendation is to vote no. If you have any specific questions or would like to discuss those particular votes, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Thanks, Mr. Thane. Trustees, questions, comments? Trustee Sadler?
I believe the motion was to approve all of them, when in fact we have recommendations for several to, so I'd like to make a move to amend the motion to be more in line with the recommendation of our coaches. I think that was number 4. They wanted to vote no on, and what was the other one?
And number 6.
And number 6.
Trustee Sadler, the administration recommendation was to discuss the proposals and send them to the High School Association with the voting recommendations. So I think our motion is to go with what has been recommended by our administration. Are you good with that?
That's correct.
Yes. Correct. Should we go with that and see if we have any diversion from that in our discussion?
Well, I suppose I don't read it that way, but if you do, then as long as the end result is that 4 and 6 are not going in as recommended, I don't care how you do it.
Okay.
Yeah, again,
let's go back to the person who made the motion, who was Trustee Smith. Could you clarify your motion, please?
The motion is to accept the recommendations as a package, and to further clarify, that includes yes on the first, second, and third, no on the 4th and 6th, and no motion on the 5th one as it is not applicable.
Trustee Sadler, does that meet with your satisfaction?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much for that clarification, sir. Trustee Knapp.
This is just a point of information more than any. At the voting, when this occurs, does each high school, regardless of Class A, B, C, or AA, does each high school have a single vote?
Each district has a single vote.
Each district has a single vote.
So again, we work to achieve consensus among our athletic directors. It presents at times a challenge for us because Sealy Lake's issues or Sealy Swan's issues are different at times than the urban high schools. But again, we collaborate, and Brian Fortman has kind of coordinated that collaboration for us this year, and they're in agreement as to the votes.
And how many total districts are there in the state? Do we know?
I don't know how many would be secondary districts. There are over 500 total districts, but many of those are elementary only.
But how many of the? I mean, how many voting? I mean, there's what 14 AA. How many voting districts are there?
Well, I don't know, but I will tell you this, and I think where you're leading is there are far more votes of the smaller schools, the Class B and C schools, than there are of the AA's.
Okay.
And they tend to carry the day.
Okay.
Trustee Smith.
I think I may have spoke out of turn. I had my hand raised, but I think it was actually Adam's motion. I apologize for that.
We were communicating telepathically. It's all good.
It's all
Roger
good?
That.
All right. Elizabeth, where is she? Or are we good? We're clear? Okay. Thank you. She got that telepathic communication, Trustee Dirk. Yeah, she was in the loop. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Thane or comments? Do you have anything, Dr. Apostle? No. All right. Then we are, is there any public comment? No. All those in favor of approving the Dirk Smith motion? The telepathic motion? We are good. We are unanimous, and we are yes, and we are adjourned.